Good afternoon, everyone. Lovely to see you. Thank you all for coming. There are earphones, apparently, if you can't hear me, but I sound really loud. I am Gill Huber from Future Factory, part of the Ingenuity Group. Welcome to our session. We've got what CMOs want, CMOs perspective. I've got some of the best in the business. Now, I am told I've got about 25 minutes, so I'm going to whiz through the introductions and then get into the questions. So I've got Benazir here, who is most recently Senior Marketing Director of Cadbury at Mondelez. Emily Latham, former Head of Digital Marketing and Martech at Channel 4. Leilah King-Gotlib, Global Marketing Director, ex-Travel and Leisure Company. And Claire Henner, Beauty and Wellbeing Chief Customer Officer and Digital Commercial Officer at Unilever, with the longest title. You win. Sorry. Well done. So we're going to get straight into it so you hear more from our esteemed guests rather than me. And I'm going to start with Benazir. And the evolving role of marketing. And you've talked when we've spoken about it involving less advertising and more commercial leadership. Could you expand on that a bit for me, please?
Sure. So I think the role of marketing's really changed. So it's less, once you go up the business a lot more, and once you're getting up to like senior marketing director levels and above, it's less about sexy advertising, less about the brand. It's more about the operations, the commercials, running the business. And unfortunately, sometimes you kind of want to be with the agencies loads and really enjoy that stuff, going to Cannes and all that kind of stuff, but actually that's not really what matters. Actually working with the board, making sure the obstacles have gone. Sometimes you're actually working with the factory, working with supply chain directors, making sure your products and your services are actually there available for your consumers and your customers. I think there's this guy, I was listening to John Evans' Uncensored CMO podcast, and there was this guy on there talking about how when you become a CMO, you're no longer the painter, you're more like the master of the atelier. And I thought that was a really good example of actually how it changes. So you're no longer doing it, you're actually selling the outcomes. You've got people doing all the work for you, making the brand sexy, making the work really sing, but actually you're selling that work, you're selling the outcomes so as to make sure you're hitting the results. So it does change, you're less doing the marketing really.
Yeah. And Leilah, you talked when we spoke about the era of justification in marketing, which is a great term, but what does that mean for you and your teams?
Absolutely. So, can everybody hear me? Yep, great stuff. So, a bit of context. So, the majority of the roles I've had over the past 15 years have been in growth marketing. So, supporting businesses to go to market internationally with a new product or a new distribution channel, and often in really challenging environments. So marketing justification has a real part in that kind of environment, right, where it's dynamic, it's fast-paced. In that a lot of the roles I've had, the past three, marketing have been treated with a bit of distance and a bit of demise, either because of previous experiences or just because a lack of understanding. So for me, marketing justification, I've turned it on its head in the past three positions. I've gone into businesses and tried to better understand why they think that marketing needs to justify itself at every step in the road. Basically ask questions all the way across the organization to say, why do you think this? To then go back and to try and educate, and not in a patronizing, condescending way, but to try and understand the people in front of me. Say, why are you experiencing this, and what can we do as a function, in an integrated function across the board, to better this response? So really taking that educative approach, and then through education of them understanding what marketing is there to deliver, so creating demand and delivering it profitably to the end consumer and to the business, and integrating cross-functionally. So understanding from each partner across the business that when you're looking at the path to purchase, everybody's involved. We don't operate in silos, and if we do, we can't deliver to the consumer, right? So speaking to each one of those cross-functional leads and getting them on board so that it's not a relationship of justification, it's a relationship of partnership, that they understand what we need as a business to deliver on the growth objectives of the business. And what that tends to lead to, because I'm a very commercially focused marketer, is working towards modeling. So you may have heard of marketing mix modeling, maybe former versions like digital attribution, that help to connect the path to purchase. So go from the marketing activity all the way to business intelligence, to understanding what is making an impact on driving business growth, either revenues and profitability, EBITDA targets, so that the marketing function doesn't sit in the pool of justifying its every action, but being proactive and turning around and saying, we've done this, and because of these various levels of complexity of models that we've got, we've been delivering this to the business. And it creates that credibility and that integrity that supports a more collaborative approach to delivering together, is what I'd say.
Thank you. And Emily, we talked about the change in marketing, and that has changed, but you always talk about the principles and how they haven't changed. Can you talk a bit more about that within your sort of field of experience?
And can everyone hear me okay? Yeah. I grew up in very traditional kind of creative agencies. I remember my deliverables lists and my approach was, I would say, simple and beautiful, and it was all about the craft and the insight and the beauty of the creative to drive a behavioural change or drive a business outcome. And I think too often now, places like this are full of technology, buzzwords, and complexity. And actually, I think we've lost sight as an industry through all of this. We've got so obsessed by data and tech, we've lost sight of the importance of just good marketing and the basic principles of marketing. So I'm a real believer in trying to strip out, when we're thinking about justifying, we're really going back to what is the right message for the right consumer at the right time. How we can demonstrate that incremental impact of that campaign, of that action, but fundamentally remembering the importance of insight, creativity, kind of actually emotional preference as well as performance, and driving the full funnel, growth opportunity that marketing can deliver. And I think we've kind of, for me, it's really important. I think I'm really kind of pleased in a post-cookie world with the demise of attribution, and I think we've got really obsessed in the performance and data world, and tech has taken over, and we've got too obsessed by trafficking clicks, not thinking about emotional connections with audiences. So for me, I'm pleased. I genuinely think there's a real opportunity at this moment in time for businesses to re-embrace the principles of the fundamentals of marketing, but and focus on outcomes and capabilities, and then look at people, process, and tech to deliver those outcomes rather than starting the other way around. And I think that's what gets me excited.
No, and that's brilliant. And actually, I kind of want to go to you now, Claire, because we talk about the term customer, and I'd love you to explain, because it means different things to different businesses. But how does that impact your role as it grows to do that, and how does that impact how you go about your marketing role, which has got customers very much in your sort of line of sight?
Yeah, so everyone can hear me? Great. So we talk about customers being retailers in an FMCG context, and that took me a bit of rewiring when I first came into FMCG 7 years ago, always been in direct-to-consumer-led businesses. So I think the way that we've thought about our marketing is also how our retailer collaborations can really draw into that consumer mindset across the path to purchase, which is really difficult when everybody owns different parts of the journey, and you're trying to take people out of their silo and get thinking about the consumer, right? Whether that is a shopper marketing team dealing with point of sale material in store, whether that's a digital commerce team dealing with merchandisers in an online world, or actually just bringing our fantastic brands to life in a TV commercial right through to press, and how does that really connect across all of those points? So I always try to talk about it in our business of being our retailers, our vehicles of collaboration where we can sell through to, but actually then going back to the technology part, sometimes retailers don't have the technology in place. So sometimes when we've got all of our assets and then we want to be able to bring it to a point of sale material, they don't have, and it becomes a really manual, clunky process. So you actually then have got, by retailer, a different set of tech, so the practicalities of it means that it can be expensive, clunky, manual, and I think I know we're going to talk a little bit around AI and the advancements a little bit later on. So I try to get our teams to think about the C's, whether it's community, content, commerce, and really think about how do we bring our brands alive in the right way, and retailers are our vehicle to reach our consumers. So they are a very important part, love them or loathe them. And I worked retailer side, so I can say that. A very, very important part of our mix and how we think about our marketing to consumers.
Excellent, thank you. And I think retail's important. Obviously, you've got the growth of retail media as well. And
absolutely.
Which that's probably there's probably 100 sessions going on about that. But I guess also the importance of data, and Emily, coming to that, is the increasing importance of data, increasingly fragmented tech, And how, as a marketer, do you navigate this and build on your point? How does that impact how you measure the success and prove the success of what you do? And obviously that's been an area you've been really into.
Well, it goes back to, I think it's about, codification in a business is so important, because I think when you have all this data and all this tech, it's like, how do you create real vision and a clear blueprint of what is the source of truth and what tools are we using for what? So KPI frameworks, measurement frameworks, being clear through the funnel are really important to help us guide and deliver the kind of questions that we have as a business and funnel them through a framework that we're all agreed upon, so we don't all have different answers to different questions and then chaos, right? So how do we codify the journeys we're working on? How do we codify the experiences? How do we make sure we're all aligned on the hypothesis we're trying to execute? And so when we're trying a new tech, a new platform, a new data, whatever it might be, a new process, we're all sort of aligned on trying to, behind the hypothesis, probably in a quarterly testing cycle, and then if it works, we scale it. If it doesn't, we walk away. And, really defining what is incremental value to your business is really key. So I think data just for the sake of data is not particularly helpful. We have a lot of data at Channel 4, but getting that data in a way that the hygiene is accessible and the business has common data, taxonomies, naming conventions, so that we can cross-measure across the business, so that we can then layer on all this cool new, people talk about AI, but unless you've got a proper data foundation, a data strategy, you can't do anything. So it's about that crawl, walk, run like approach. I think it's very easy to get excited by all the cool whizzy stuff on the top, but until you've really established those basic hypotheses and principles around your frameworks, codifying your ways of working, giving the teams real structure around how they're working and testing, then you can start to scale the tech and the processes and the journeys that matter to drive business value. But I think if you go you have to recognize the pace of your business as well, because I think too much innovation for some legacy businesses is just too much, whereas startups can deal with more. But equally, how much can they deal with at any one moment in time? So it's not just about ambition. There's always ambition, but it's what's right for your teams, your capability, your tech stack. So I think there's a lot of, for me, just creating that governance and structure around what you're all doing, so everyone's aligned and understanding, so you've got that cohesive answer, then the data can be hugely powerful, but without it, it's chaos. Yeah.
And I guess you kind of got to have your hypothesis first and then work out what you measure, which leads me to you, because you talk about marketing being in line with the business steps, and actually, I'd love you to talk about that further, because the two are quite linked, rather than just measuring everything. Having that in line.
I think every single function needs to understand that its ultimate aim is to generate growth, right, for the business in terms of revenue and EBITDA and profitability. And so each function, so when you're talking about marketing strategy, if you're not directly looking at your business strategy before you create your marketing strategy and anything that comes from that, planning, tactics that come thereafter, you're not working towards that growth of your business, which is what pays everybody's salary and pays bonuses and the like. So it has to be lockstep. The marketing strategy has to be lockstep with the business strategy, and so do the KPIs. So that each person across the business, there's nothing worse and more disincentivizing to a team than say, I've been working for a whole year and I thought I was doing what I should be doing, but it hasn't contributed. Well, you were looking in the wrong place. You need to ask the right questions, and I think everybody in a marketing organization needs to do that. Ask the questions, be curious. Understand how a business makes its money, right? How does your business make its money? What are the levers that generate greater margins or less margins? So that across a year, you can pivot. So that if one of your products or one of your services isn't working out, you know why, and you know that fact, so that when you are looking through to all of your strategy, planning, and tactics, you know how to react or be proactive, right? When you see signals coming down the line from research that you're doing or listening that you're doing. So if marketing isn't in lockstep with business strategy, you're not going to deliver, and you're not going to see the rewards of that. And one of the things that I frequently would say is, if marketing aren't talking to finance and understanding the P&L, it's futile. They have to have that financial understanding in order to be a marketing strategy that truly will impact, right?
Thank you. And leading on from that, in terms of your career, Benazir, I'll talk to you about that as you develop and as things become sort of more fragmented and more complicated, you kind of had to move from generalist to specialist as a marketer. Can you give me a bit of your experience in that as you've gone through that?
Because I've always worked in FMCG food and drink, and I think when you're quite early on, it's really good to get the generalist knowledge, so like understanding how to run the projects, like even if the even like the cost-saving projects, or of course everyone wants to work on innovation, but it's like or advertising, but it's actually always getting all the basic skills and really getting the generalist and the broad spectrum of its skills. And my experience has been like, get as much generalist experience as you can, and then you will find a time when you want to specialise. You can specialise, it's not a problem, and you can become an absolute expert. If you're going up in FMCG marketing, stay generalist as much as you can until you have to specialise. And then as you specialise, as you go up the business, if you want to be like the president or a CMO, all that generalist experience will be super useful. What you'll also find is that everyone has a natural bias. You always end up, a CMO will always have a natural bias to one thing, whether it's commercial or creativity or strategy or people leadership, they'll naturally have it. But actually having all the skills that a generalist can bring you is super useful and will just help you be a better marketer, in my experience.
Excellent, thank you. And it wouldn't be a technology discussion without AI, so I'm going to go to you. In terms of AI, and AI's been around, is around, we don't always think about it, but Gen AI, how do you think that's impacting the whole marketing ecosystem? What excites you, what scares you? What would be your words of warning in terms of that sort of sector and talking around this?
Gosh, this is a
Can
big
you got
question.
10 minutes though?
So
just pick the bits that you want to talk about.
No, for the interest of time, because I think you can wax lyrical on this. And I was really fortunate. I was on the west coast of the US back in May and had the opportunity to be with some of the biggies in this space. And I think, look, it's a massive change curve that we're going on as an industry. But I think from a Unilever perspective, I would say we're starting with where we can see efficiencies. And from a digital commerce perspective, for the last 2 years, I've had an outsourced team in Poland, but one of the big things that we've really focused on is the reuse of content. And we can only really do that with the right tech, and AI being at the forefront of that. And so we can and so this goes back to the process point that you said of being like master asset creation. The master asset creation is key. If we've got that, then we can actually then use AI to reuse our content. And we've seen our costs go down by 50%. Now that's got big implications in the agency model, because how do agencies use to make money is changing fundamentally. So we start with some of those efficient processes that you talked about as well, because you need all the processes to be in right. So you just need to make sure you've got discipline in your organization to be able to make AI in that process flow work to drive efficiencies. The other areas where we're driving AI in the business is customer service, again, to be expected. And that is really through our care lines, or we can use bots to be able to make it more efficient from a consumer perspective. Trends, so we can use and bring together, but again, I would say in the data structure is key, right? So how can we bring all of our data sources together, have the right structure, and then we can use a lot of trends, whether it's from Google or TikTok or Alibaba's platform, and then we can use that to really create trend innovation. So we're using that to do that at scale at a fastest pace. We've also done it in factories and supply chains. So we're using it in parts where we can create efficiency. If we can create efficiency, then we can release people's time. Is the time better spent elsewhere? Of course, then you get into productivity agendas. Does that release capacity in people? And then, we use them in other ways. So for now, we're using it really from an efficiency perspective. I think the opportunities are endless, but that requires a whole conversation in itself.
And process and understanding what you're doing. All of you have talked about almost you're being asked to do a lot more with the same 24 hours in the day, and with a lot more technology. So you've got partners from creative to media. What are you, after the audio, what are you looking for in your partners to help you as you navigate this and have to make the CFO your best friend as well? So try that with you.
Yeah, I think I think it's really interesting. I think you get the partner you deserve. So for me, agencies, like I think it's quite easy for clients to blame agencies for being, not any good, or I think lazy clients beat bad agencies. And for me, it's about you have to kind of upskill your team and be super clear on what the capabilities you expect and where you're putting your value, and that will change your agency relationship. And so for me, it's about being really clear with what you're trying to achieve with your data tools and tech. Resetting your agency relationships so they're super clear, because half the time they're having to second guess because you haven't probably told them. So really building a partnership, and then re-looking at capability across your teams and thinking, how do we get to that? Where are we on our digital maturity today? Where do we want to get to? And building a roadmap holistically, so not just looking at your internal roadmap, but how do you build a cross-functional, cross-agency? And for me, it goes beyond just the media and marketing, but very much the creative as well. Because it's all linked now. This technology and data has brought separate functions, separate capabilities, separate people bitching about separate parts of the project. And unfortunately now we have to work together, because that is a one ecosystem, one chain. And so we have to think about a holistic roadmap and architecture that supports those teams to work better together. And I think unless, again, we set up that roadmap and that maturity and clear on where we're focusing together, then we get better partners.
Yeah, excellent, thank you. Benazir, I'm going to go on working
What
my
she
way
said.
this way.
I think it comes down to, like you say, like relationships and trust. It really is. It comes down to that. And to be fair, everything she said.
I think touching on one of the things that you said, a lot of agencies will say that they're like part of you, part of your business.
They want to be.
And they want to be. And I
Yeah.
think one of the keys in making them part of your business
Yes.
is opening your doors. Give them access to
Yes.
your people, not just your marketing people, because to be a
Yes.
true part of a business, you need to be talking to all of the other functions that touch the path to purchase, the consumer journey, right? So they need to have those exchange sessions to be the boots on the ground, to be building out just as good quality work as your internal teams would, and better.
Just to
And the
build
only
on
thing
that,
that I would
mean,
add-
the one.
Oh,
Sorry,
you
sorry.
go.
The one that's to say, what I think you really need with an agency are ones that really listen and
Yeah.
want to make great work for you, not a bespoke work for you, not just an off-the-shelf solution, like just like, oh, this is what we always do, bang. That approach needs to stop. That approach, it doesn't really work. But actually, making proper bespoke solutions for that client's problem is really where the added value happens. Sorry.
Yeah, no, the only thing I would add, because I would echo the same, is also be the challenger and the
Yeah.
external orientation, because sometimes I think, you can get lost in your own business, right?
Yeah.
And the beauty of working with partners, and I'll say that broadly, is that you're working with lots of different people,
Yeah.
right? And so you could be the eyes and the challenger
Yeah.
to the way that we do business. And so I would also really encourage that healthy debate
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
healthy challenge
It's
on
a
top of
it's a
everything.
really valid point, because I think if you end up with just the yes men, then you never see yourself.
Yeah, so don't be afraid to say no, you shouldn't
Yeah,
do
because
that.
partners
or,
have that
different ways.
objectivity and
Absolutely.
spectrum of
Yeah.
diverse
And don't be
clients.
afraid from a no, equally, because challenging is healthy, as you were saying, but don't let an internal no or a yes deter you. So, and it goes in both directions, right? It's not about being right or wrong, it's about seeing progress and development,
Yeah.
so moving with that.
And I think it's being transparent with your partners, and then being transparent back. So the more you
Yeah.
let them in, the more they understand the business rather than just
Yeah.
the end product of an advertising campaign. That's only to do a job for you as a
And I
marketer.
guess it's about creating that space to fail. Like, I think agencies are so terrified, and the agency world is so complicated now, and there's always this sort of, the clients always have the power, and it's like, that's not helpful for anyone. And I think creating that safe environment where they feel like you can have failure and learn from it, and that feedback loop is part of the process. Because
It goes back to the point about parameters and KPIs, right? Because a test is good. Set up KPIs and parameters, then everybody knows the benchmarks that success is and failure will be okay. It's just you all agree on the common point.
And
Sorry.
in a similar vein,
You've gone
healthy.
rogue
Sorry, I've gone over. In a similar
Go through
vein,
to the end, I think.
healthy tension's also good.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
Yes.
marketing and sales, for example, there's always healthy tension. And actually, to your point, like it's about progress. And if it's like that with the agencies, if the relationship and trust is so strong, you can have healthy tension. It's never personal, and actually it'll make better work. And I think that's really helpful.
Yeah. being able to disagree
Yeah.
well is really
And
important.
I guess for
isn't it?
this audience, technology audience, is just simplifying, because everyone loves to look clever and but I think as long as you can explain it to an intelligent 12-year-old, then your clients will respect you, and that they'll be able to ask you questions because they'll get what you're saying. And I think it doesn't help clients by you're looking clever, but how can you just really, because actually half of the stuff, actually you can probably break it down in a really simple sentence, but too often we dress things up to be with acronyms, and we lose half the business.
Yeah.
And technology and architecture don't understand, or product, think, what is all this? It's noise. So how do we break it down and simplify is part of it. So I think it's a big part of that is not hiding behind the technology and the complexity, and actually trying to make it accessible, I think is a really important partnership, because like you say, a lot of clients are quite generalist. They haven't necessarily grown up in a technology world, and they're now responsible for really difficult tech stacks. And it's scary for them, right? They've got data governance issues, they've got tech issues, they've got much more responsibility than they've ever had before. So helping them learn and kind of making them look good is a really valuable part of that.
That's brilliant. I have a feeling we might be at time. I'll try one more question and see if we get shut off. Tell me if you stop being able to hear us. One thing I actually think, marketing, really exciting time, really exciting for people coming into the industry. Well, how do you look for talent? How do you nurture talent for you and your businesses? Because some people sitting here, we're thinking, I want to go into this business. So how do you do it? And I will start with you, Claire.
Yeah, look, I think companies have a responsibility to create a compelling employee value proposition, because I don't think people want to just join a business.
Yeah.
So I think it's your responsibility to craft that. I think it's also incredibly important to just meet people externally, right? And have a talent pipeline. And then, I mean, I'm really fortunate. I get to work with future leaders in our company really regularly, and bright-eyed, young, starting their career. But if I just think the weekend, I was with my 17-year-old niece and nephew, and they're like, but how do you get into marketing? And I want to do music marketing. And you know, there's this surface of young people where actually just crying out for basic business information of how do I start my career. So then you've got this young talent pool, then you've got this mid-level recruitment kind of piece where you're bringing new people into your organization, or you've got fantastic people that maybe need to go through some of the things that we talked about today, a change in specialism. They've started as generalist, now they need to get new skills. So I think it's not just about thinking about an employee value proposition, it's then the skills that you need. What do you need to retrain? How do you keep people in your business? How do you keep them engaged in what you're doing and the new evolution of where you're going to? So I think we've got a duty of care to bring new people into the industry, to keep the people that we've got and train them into the new skills, and then give them another 10, 20 years of a fulfilling career. So I think about it for the younger talent, but also how do I make sure my team feels really inspired about the new, exciting energy? And if they want to stay a generalist, then that's fine. But I need to make sure that I can craft that accordingly. So be responsible and think about the new and the older. And I am the older.
That's great. Thank you, Leilah.
3 words I would say: passion, curiosity, and positivity. So everyone knows that there are hard skills for a job. You can have all of the hard skills in the world, but for me it's about every day when there are challenges in front of us, are you going to be passionate? Are you going to be curious to problem solve, right? In the face of adversity, how are we going to think about this? And positive, right? Because when things are hard, when things are good, it's really easy, but when things are hard, we need to have a positive mindset and a can-do mindset. So I think those 3 things, in addition to, you know, the harder skills, are really important for me in a day-to-day. And it's what makes a team, it's what keeps a team together and fighting towards the same common goal.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think it's that learning agility as well, to want to grow, want to get better, want to learn, and just really flex that muscle. And I think you can show that even if you haven't got marketing experience, if you can show that you've got that muscle of learning agility, whatever it is, and that you're really curious, and that you're actually really kind of a kind person that people can get on with, you're basically not horrid, you know, you'll be fine, you can get in, and I think it's a great place.
I say leaders need to kind of get out of the way quite a lot, because I think when we over direct or over complicate things. I think for me, what I've seen work really well is when you build really cross-functional teams around clear strengths, around clear projects and KPIs, and that you all learn and grow from that autonomy, because they've been given you've picked a team around a capability, and you've given them autonomy, so they've had to grow and they've got real accountability. I think for me, so it's about trying to give that as a leader, trying to build a kind of environment where you've got such a clear strategy, you're able to build cross-functional teams around strengths, to build diversity of thinking and perspective, so people don't get stuck. So that enables people to sort of try different things and experience from different and be challenged in a way. What did product think about the market? It's just not marketing, don't always have the answer. Like, how do we all learn about the customer? So for me, it's about like almost leaders getting out of the way a little bit, really focusing on strategy and processing KPIs, and then letting teams be more autonomous and cross-functional and being accountable. So that you learn, don't you, when the buses aren't there?
Yeah, exactly. When you have to. Well, look, thank you ever so much. Lots of wise words and learning. So can we give them a big round of applause, please? Thanks.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.